time to put a gloss finish on our JAGOCASTER, and we're getting started right now. Okay, going to use minwax wipe on poly to put a clear gloss finish on our JAGOCASTER. I used the minwax Jaco bean stain on this. Turned out really nice. First of all, I have a couple of old small ice cream containers to prop this sucker up while I work on it. I chose this wipe on poly because I didn't want to use a brush and take the chance of having brush strokes, and I didn't want to use spray, but it is available in other forms as well. So directions say shake this. I'm going to shake it gently, and what you do is apply this with a clean cloth. You simply wipe it on, you let it dry for a couple hours, and then you sand it lightly with 220 or with some fine steel wool, and put the next coat on. Do the same thing, put multiple coats on. Probably put 2 or 3 coats on this, but today we're just going to get the first one on. A couple other things I'm working on here. I thought about doing this 2 ways. I thought about doing just the one side, letting that dry, flipping it over, do the other side, but I kind of want to do the whole thing at once because I'm impatient. So what I'm going to do is use some of these cups, prop this up, make it stable. I'm going to do the top and the sides, and then I'm going to flip it over. Now, how am I going to flip it over without grabbing it? A couple things. Take a shoestring, piece of a shoestring with the little plastic threading end on it there. This is an elastic one. May or may not work against me, but I'm going to put this through. Okay, one of the holes for mounting the, so it at least lets me pick it up. Probably be better if this wasn't elastic, but I'll just have to grab it near the top. The other thing I'm going to do, when I get the top finished, took another ice cream cup, put double-sided tape on it. I'm going to put that in the center here, and should be able to flip it over and sit it down on top of this without having to touch the sides. So I'm going to grab my gloves here just in case. I don't get it on my hands if that becomes an issue. Okay, I've shaken this sufficiently. I think it's just time to get started here. Need a small screwdriver to pop this open. There's a slot there. Most of your cans like this have this screwdriver slot. Alright. Like I said, I have no idea how this is going to go, so as usual, just going to do it. Pour some on the rag. Start with the sides. Actually, by starting with the sides, I can pretty much still pick it up and maneuver it. Kind of strange, goes on thin. It's not real thick. I was wondering if this was going to be a thick or thin application, and it is thin. You can see where I put it on though, I'll say that. Okay, I'm going to go right up to the neck piece here. As thin as it is, it doesn't seem to be running up the sides, which is good. It does look like it took some of the excess stain off of the body, though, that's for sure. Okay, I think I have the sides pretty good. I'll go over them a little bit more. Okay, now let's do the top. See how that comes out. Reposition my rag here so it's clean. Oh, pretty good amount out there. Here we go. Rub it on. It's just goes on very liquidy. It's not even as thick as something like tung oil or teak oil. It's kind of watery. Going over these edges again so I don't have any running. You can see it's taking any excess stain that didn't actually sink into the wood. It is taking that off. Okay. It does look a little glossy. I guess multiple coats is what's going to tell. Alright, now I'm going to try my flipping idea. Put this on with double-sided tape. I'm going to grab it. Also put my fingers in this down here. Now I can move these out of the way. And I have that on there so I don't have anything on the back yet. I'm going to reach under here, grab this, lift it up by this, sit it down. There we go, good to go. I'm going to take that string out. And now we're on here. Got the double-sided tape on. Should hold it in place pretty well. Find a clean spot on the cloth. Actually, I'm going to shake this a little more. Alright, get some on there. Rub it on. Yeah, I was worried about this being sticky or touching it and leaving a fingerprint or something like that. That's not how this is applying at all, really. It's Goes on very smooth. If I look down along the edge here, I can see where I either haven't hit it all or a little light. So. I need to hold this so I don't rock it. So I'm going to reach under here and grab it in between the neck and where the first pickup goes. I'm not actually putting my fingers on the finish, just pinching a piece of the wood. Okay, now catching the light off of this from an angle, I can see I've hit it all pretty well. I don't see anything dripping or running. Kind of wish I would have checked out the front a little bit better before I did this, before I flipped it over. But I don't know, I think I got it pretty well covered. A bit more on. It's hard to judge with this because it's just liquidy. It's just watery. It's not all right. I'm going to let it go at that. Got the first coat on. It's got to dry for 2 to 3 hours, and I'll come back and check it out. See about putting on the second coat. Okay, got our first coat on here, and it's really hard to tell. I mean, there's a little bit of a gloss to it, but it really doesn't look like we did anything. Now the instructions say to sand it with 220, but when I looked on the website it said you can sand it with 220 or you can sand it with steel wool. So I'm going to use this 4/0 steel wool from Walmart because I don't want to use 220 on it. I don't know. Somehow I missed the concept of trying to put gloss on something and sanding in between the coats. Just why do you want to make something dull before you put something shiny back on it? I never kind of understood that concept, but anyway, I'm going to use steel wool, not 220 sandpaper, because I don't want to take any more material off of this. I don't want to mess with the finish. I just want it to be ready to take the next coat of poly. So that's what we're going to do. Okay, I'm going to very, very lightly go over this with this steel wool. I just do not like the idea of sanding off what I tried to put on there. And you're supposed to do this between every coat. Seems to me you're just taking off what you already put on, because this stuff just goes on like water. It's not tacky. I don't know. See, it's dulling this up already. But I guess that's what it's supposed to do. So I'll follow the instructions. But I'm very lightly sanding this. I mean really lightly. I'm just not putting any pressure on this at all. Just rubbing this over top. I don't know, I guess these folks at Minwax know what they're doing, so I'll follow the instructions. Okay, that's good enough for me. I'm going to take a clean rag here and wipe any dust off of this that we may have created. Hopefully the oil from my hands isn't going to cause any problems. Also going to shake this off, flip it over, and I'm going to go through the same process again. That we did the first time, first coat. Shake this up. I'm shaking it up pretty good this time. I'm going to use a fresh piece of clean cloth for the second coat. I'm not going to use that same one I used before, because I know there were some little remnants of the finish that came off. Alright, let's get the show on the road. Here we go, coat number 2. I have to say, it does look a darn sight shinier than it did on the first coat. So maybe there is some science to this sanding in between coat stuff. Apparently there is. Okay. Going to insert my shoestring back in here for lifting purposes, and I have my cup with a double-sided tape ready when we flip it back over. Let's see what happens when we put some of this on top. Alright, well, I don't know. I'm going to put a little more on this side first, just to satisfy myself that I coated it thoroughly. Alright. Okay. Lift her up. Oops. Put these out of the way. Put this back on here. And here we go. Alright. Now, clean side to the rag. I'm going to cover this up, shake it a little more. Okay. Alright, here we go. Okay. Alright, doesn't look like I missed any. It does look a little bit shinier than the last time. So, maybe I'm underestimating this stuff. But, let's coat 2. Let's let that dry. Actually, I'm going to let this dry overnight and work on this again tomorrow. Because it's going to be too late to do it again tonight. So, take a look at it tomorrow. Do the same thing again with the steel wool. Put the 3rd coat on and see how it looks after that. Alright, see you then. Okay guys, it's been a couple of days since I filmed the last coat of poly I put on this, which was the 2nd coat. Since then I put a 3rd coat on yesterday and I just finished putting a 4th coat on. I used the same process with the steel wool in between the coats, light sanding, wipe it off good with a cloth, and then wipe the next coat of poly on. And I'm starting to understand now the science of this sanding in between coats. It just gives enough of a rough surface. It's not rough, but enough of a surface for the next coat to grip onto. And as each subsequent coat goes on, it looks a little bit shinier. Shinier. And I want to show you now what that looks like. Okay. I'm going to catch some of this light on here. You can see that it is starting to get some shine on there. That's a pretty good angle shot there. Looks pretty good. The front looks pretty good too, but it's wet now, so I can't show you that. But you can actually see some reflections of the wall over there. So I'm quite happy with how this is turning out, but I really do believe I'm going to put at least 1 more coat on. So we're talking maybe 5 to 6 coats of wipe on poly. And by then, might be as shiny as I want it. So we'll tune back in once I get another coat or 2. I might just wait till I get the last coat, whichever coat I feel is going to be the last coat, and then just film that part and spare you the in-betweens. All right, folks, finally got the last coat of clear poly on our JAGOCASTER. I didn't film every coat, but this is the 5th coat, and I'm going to stop there because I think I could just get addicted to this and keep doing it coat after coat until I use the whole can. But to me, it looks really good. It's got a nice even gloss to it, and it still maintains that natural rustic look I like. Not so much like a sprayed on poly coat that's really thick, where it just looks like there's a 1/4 of an inch of gloss on there. That wasn't the look I was going for. I just wanted it to be shiny, not necessarily look like it's got 10 coats of lacquer or polyurethane on it. And I think I've achieved that with this. Very happy with it. I think it looks really nice. And once we get the pick guard on there, get the neck attached, it's going to look pretty good. Now, speaking of the neck, my neck video was pretty much of a disaster. I lost the audio a couple times, and I tried to re-edit it, and it just turned out badly. But this is how the headstock turned out. This wasn't the original take. What I did was, when I went to try to put the first coat of wipe-on poly on here, it took a lot of the finish off. A lot of the stain apparently didn't soak into the wood. It was just kind of laying on top. That's because I think I went too far. If you watch that video, I think I put a couple notes in there about it. I went too far with the steel wool, too fine of a grit of sandpaper. I didn't leave this porous enough to accept the stain. So what I did was went back over it with 180 grit, sanded it all back down to the bare wood, and restained it. And I think it looks pretty good, but the test is going to be when I put the poly on. And that's what I'm going to do. Right now I'm going to put the first coat of wipe-on poly on this. And I'm also going to put a second coat of tung oil on. I'd gone back over this with the steel wool, but in the other video I said I think this got just as smooth as it was when I started, when I used the steel wool on it. So I went over it lightly, and I'm going to put at least one more coat of tung oil on this. But it is smooth. It's really a fast neck. It's awesome. But my main concern is to get this covered with wipe-on poly. So I'm going to put the first coat on tonight. So let's get going with that. All right, I really don't know what to expect here. As I said last night, I tried to do this and it took the finish right off. So I'm hoping that's not going to happen tonight. Hoping this goes on nice and easy like it did on the body. So I've shook this up well. Clean piece of cotton t-shirt. I'm going to soak this fairly well here. All right, cross your fingers. Here we go. Okay, it's taking a little bit of finish off, but that's pretty much the excess. That's the same thing that happened on the body. So it looks like we're good to go here. Like that on. Yeah, you can see it's like it's like a little it's like a little bit of excess is coming off of there, but not too much. I really want to get a nice good coat on here. It's really hard to tell. First coat's the hardest to tell because it's just pretty much trying to get it to look wet and glossy, but until it has a base coat to stick to, there's really not much you can tell. Alright, so I'm going to leave it at that. Looks pretty good. But I am going to do one other thing. And I had said about using a Q-tip. If that part didn't get edited out of that last video. Q-tips are handy to have, especially with things like stain and finish. I'm going to dip this in here, see if I can actually get some. Alright, that's good. And I'm going to take that and I'm going to do inside this truss rod hole here. I should have done that more with the stain. I used a screwdriver and kind of tried to put the screwdriver in the rag and shove the rag in there, but it left a little bit to be desired there as far as how it came out. But I kind of like the contrast. It's got a little bit of contrast there. I don't think it looks bad. And like I said, I really like a little more of a rustic, natural look to my guitars. Not so much of a polished something you buy at Guitar Center. Alright, well, first coat's on there. Not really much I can do to make it any better. Just has to dry, and then subsequent coats go on until it gets as shiny as I want it. Now, I'm not going to record any of that, I'm just going to do it. Next video is going to be getting this thing pretty much put together, and then we're going to put the tuners on there, Spursel tuners, and after that comes the fun part, the electronics and the finishing touches, and this bad boy is going to be done. So thanks for watching, thanks for following, subscribing. If you're not following and subscribing, please do, so you can see the end of this build and see how this thing turns out. I think it's going to be worth the wait. So until next time, take care.